Greetings everyone, welcome to ChessAdvancedd. This game is from Clutch Champions, and with the black pieces we have the 5x4 champion Magnus Carlsen facing off against the world number 3 Fabiano Caruana, and Fabi needs to bounce back in this second round robin game. If he doesn't, Magnus wins the clutch chess. So this is a lot at stake. Let's see what here Fabi is able to do with the white pieces. He starts with e4. We have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. He chooses the Ruy López here, just going for a6, Murphy's defense, bishop to a4, and now just going for knight to f6, castles. And now in this position he goes for the Columbus variation. Will he go for the open Sicilian? Well, if he goes for the open one, I think the position would lead to a draw, so that's why he chooses to go for bishop to e7. And here just bishop captures, d captures, and just rook to e1. And now just knight to d7, d4, e captures, queen captures, and just castles was played. And Fabi definitely, Magnus and Fabi both know these variations, obviously, but still, let's see what Fabi has in store for Magnus. Knight to c3 could have been played in this position. With bishop to f6, you go for queen to d3, and knight to e5. You got to trade bishop captures. You play f4, queen captures first, and after pawn captures, maybe once the bishop moves, you will have a massive center, and you can do something about it. So definitely would have been a nice choice. But here after castles, bishop to f4 was played, and now just comes this knight to c5, attacking the queen. Queen moves back. And here just going for this knight to e6, and here bishop to g3 back, and just bishop to c5 attacking the queen. Queen needs to move queen to e2 and just a5, so trying to take more space towards the queen side. And although you need to develop the rook, you need to connect rooks, you need to develop the knight for that. And in this position here, let's see what in this position here Fabi just chooses to go for this knight bd2, and here just going for this b6, just strengthening the structure, maybe also preparing queen Keto. But you could have also gone for this rook to e8 in this position, and after c3 you play b6 and knight to b3, bishop to a6, and this is going to be a very nice diagonal to be able to occupy in this position. And after queen to c2, you just go for a4, pushing the knight back. Once the knight captures, you go for knight captures, rook a to d1, and once bishop blocks in this position, that is going to be a very fine bishop. After queen to d2, you can play a lot of moves. You can go for queen to c8 in this position. Also choose to go for bishop to c4, asking for a trade. Bishop queen to f6 is also a nice move in this position. You don't have to worry about it that much as long as the queen is occupying it and you're not sacrificing two pieces for the rook. I think you're good to go. But Magnus in this position goes for b6 immediately, and just preparing all of these ideas. And here rook a to d1, bishop to a6 by Magnus, attacking the queen, but c4 completely shutting off the bishop. Queen to e7, and now just going for this knight to b3. So definitely Fabi wants to actually eliminate that, and that is a very, very strong bishop, and you want to be able to eliminate that piece as fast as possible. A bishop to b4, not allowing that to happen. That also comes with an attack towards the rook, so rook needs to move. And here rook to f1 seems like a passive move, but it is. Here in this position, b5 by Magnus, knight bd4, knight captures, and in this position b captures on c4 was paid. Queen to e3, and here rook f to e8. So Magnus' position with the black pieces is absolutely fine. He is a little bit better as well, and it's going to be really difficult now for Fabi to be able to bounce back in this game. At least what he can hope for in this position is try to go for a draw. But Fabi in this position goes for a3, and now we have c3, and c3 is a beautiful move in this position, sacrificing an entire piece. And Fabi was like, what is this? Why are you giving me a complete piece? But here Fabi chooses wrong, and he goes for a captures, and a captures is not at all a good move in this position. What you were supposed to play in this position is knight to f5, and maybe, just maybe after that, you can survive in this position. And knight to f5 would have given Magnus maybe a 0.91 advantage, and with that he might be able to win the game, but draw would be a most likely result. And then afterwards, you can maybe you just leave it everything to Hikaru, where if Hikaru beats Magnus 2-0 and Fabi beats Kokesh 2-0 in then game, maybe then he can win. But he goes for a captures, and now here bishop captures on f1, b captures, and here just going for this bishop to c4. So he is a lot better here. You could have also gone for this move, bishop to b5, and after b captures, you play queen captures on e4, queen captures, rook captures, bishop captures on c7, and rook a to e8. You're just completely winning. You are up the exchange. You're going to have to go for knight to f3 to, stop mate. And yeah, this is not a position you want to have. But here after b captures, bishop to c4, still fine, still winning. B captures on a5, and now just comes queen captures, rook captures, bishop captures on c7. So same lines, same moves, but in a different order. Bishop was on c5 here. But now just rook a to e8. We have f3 first, attacking the rook, and now after rook e1, rook captures, king to f2, and now just going for rook to c1. So attacking all of those pawns. And the trouble is, this is an endgame where Magnus is better. He's just +1, but both players are very much down on the clock. They're playing on basically 15 seconds, and this converting this for a win when you have these passes is going to be very, very difficult to be able to try and, you're not winning this, but holding it to a draw is much likely a possibility with that much less time on the clock. But hey, just knight caps on c6 was played, grabbing another pawn, rook caps on c3, knight to d4, and now just going for rook to a3, putting a rook behind the pass pawn, safest way. g4 now, and hey, bishop to d5. And if you go for this king to g3 in this position, you're most likely, maybe you can survive. h5, g captures. Now you go for king to h7, king to f4, and f6. It's a long shot, but maybe you can try bishop to b6. Now just going for rook to e2, knight to b5, and bishop to b7. What it basically does is it gives Magnus a lot of chances to be able to blunder. Maybe you extend the game for 30, 40 more moves, and most likely here you will allow Magnus to blunder, and when you give him some chances to blunder, he might just. So you're just putting everything on a hope, but most likely it would have been because both players are very much down on the clock. But here after bishop to d5, h4 was played, and now you're in trouble. Hey, f6, now just comes h5, and more trying to take more space is not going to help. This rook is very annoying. King to f7, bishop to b6, and bishop to b7 was played. f4 now, and Magnus was completely winning here. All he needed to do was just give a check, and after king to g3, rook to a3 check, king to h4, bishop to a6, and after this g5 play, rook to a1, harass the king, and most likely he will completely win this game. G captures f5, and bishop to c8, you just play king to g4, rook to g1 check, and yeah, your position is just so winning. You can never push this. Knight, I don't know how you will even remaneuver the knight from here to here. I mean, if you go here, I'll just happily pick this up, and yeah, next I'm just putting this there. Even if you get the pawn till here, I mean, the last square is a light square, you're never getting in, and what's most likely going to happen is I'll just take everything and I'll just win this game. But after f4, hey, bishop to d5 was played, and now g5, f captures, rook to h3, now going after those pawns, but just g6 check, and h captures, king captures, and now just pushing a6. So Magnus allows the prospect of a7, but here rook to a3 and a7, but just king to h5. So it's a similar thing that I told you about. I'll just trade everything. I'll have a pass pawn on f pass pawn, but instead of that f pass pawn, now Magnus has a g passer, and the pawn is on e7, and bishop to c5 now just comes rook to a5, bishop to b6, rook to a6, and now just going for bishop to c5. All Fabi can do in this position is just play that bishop back and forth, and it's a painful position. g5 was played, king to e3, rook to a5, bishop to b6, rook to a3 check, king to f2, and now just going for king to g4. And all Magnus has to do is get the king into the game, because both of these pieces are actually just bound, and now you cannot even move them. All I got to do is just get the king here, push the pawn. It's completely winning position. Bishop to c5, rook to a5, rook to b6, rook to a2 check, king to e3, and after rook to a3 check, king to d2, and after this king to h3, king to c2 was played, rook to a4, but now just comes this knight to e2, trying to stop the pawn, bishop to a8, king to b3, rook to a6, bishop to d4, and just g4, and that pawn is pushing forward no matter what you do, and that's what happened in the game as well. g2, now just going there, but here just bishop to f3, knight to e6, rook to d2, and bishop to g1 was played, but now just comes rook to d1, bishop to f2, and g1 queen. Now you have to sack the bishop, and here in this position, king to b6, but just rook to b1 check, king to a6. Man, I mean, he could have resigned here, Fabi, but he was just very much down on the clock, so he's just playing along. Knight to c7, king to f5, knight to b5, king to e6. All you gotta do is get the king here, knight to c3, rook to b3, knight to a4, rook to a3, king to b5, and after king to d6, king to b4 was played, rook to a1, and here Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, and Magnus got his revenge. He beat Fabi 2-0, and not only that, he won the game, and with that, he also won the Clutch Chess Champions, and he won that with 2 games to spare. A phenomenal performance by Magnus, definitely making a spectacular comeback, and well, showing to the rest of the world that he still got it. It doesn't matter how much time he's away from the board and he's not played over the board chess. He could be rusty, but he's not so rusty that he cannot beat the world's best. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with some of the amazing games that still happened after this for the second place, third place, and fourth place, and so on. But Magnus got this one, and yeah, was a phenomenal thing to watch him play, and definitely one of the greatest performance by him so far. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very, very much for watching.